Did Ryan Staub, former Colorado quarterback, fire a shot at the program, or did he just highlight exactly why Deion Sanders made so many changes?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Kevin Borba, and this episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Buffs that are under the most pressure to succeed in 2026. This can range from coaches to players. We're going to talk about who can rise the most in spring ball, who's going to use this opportunity to rise through the ranks. But we're going to start off with Ryan Staub because he is turning some heads, and it's not for his play on the field just yet. As we know, he transferred to Tennessee, and he may have highlighted a problem or may have, I guess, exposed an issue for the Buffs. He said, and I quote, "It's definitely different from my last 2 years at Colorado. It's tempo. It's a lot of things moving at once. There's just a lot of things for the quarterbacks that the quarterback control," which is like, okay, because he's being asked about this system. But then the one that stood out to me was he said, "Colorado is obviously a great place. I have amazing memories there. But the way things are run here, it just seems like it's a next level up. I mean, everything's just so buttoned up. It's organized. It's awesome. Obviously, no shade of Colorado. I love that place. But everything here is just even just that much more professional, it feels like." And then, as we know, yesterday, he also talked about how he hadn't felt like he was coached more in his 3 years in Colorado than he was in his 1 month at Tennessee. And so if you're a Colorado fan, you hear this and you go, okay, that's not great. And this is exactly why I was so critical of Deion Sanders' hires and the way he was running his program, because he was treating the Buffs as if they were an NFL team. And when you have a roster of college kids, they are not NFL players yet. Maybe they have NFL talent, maybe they have NFL potential, but they are not NFL mindset players yet, right? There's a reason your best player, Marion Miller, and Joseph Williams were late back from the bye week because they kind of felt like they could get away with stuff. Like, that's how it goes. They don't fear repercussions, right? So having coaches like a Pat Shurmur, like a Coach Pecco, like a Warren Sapp, who are of the mindset of like, oh, these guys, they're just going to want to be great, or they're going to want to listen to me because I was. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. And so I think the greater issue that Colorado was having was the fact that they didn't have the right infrastructure, right? Coach Prime did not have enough coaches around him who were A, willing to say no to him, B, understood how college programs operated, and C, were willing to go the extra mile and do things that maybe not everyone wants to do, right? I think there was a lack of effort from his coaching staff. And like, you just look at the coaching staff and who's not here anymore. Robert Livingston, 0 years of college football coaching experience. Now, he brought in tons of experience from the NFL, but I think, and I'll get to that in a little bit, I guess, Pat Shurmur hadn't coached in college since 1998. I wasn't even born when he last coached in college football. Plus, he had multiple years as the offensive coordinator, never really saw any changes or improvements. He kind of just rode off the coattails of, I would say, Shedeur Sanders and the NFL players. Kevin Mathis had never coached anywhere besides with Coach Prime. So that was at Trinity and then Jackson State, and I would say the corners regressed a lot. Gunnar White, I would say, is the one hire where it was like, okay, that worked out pretty well, and he had a little bit of experience. Marshall Faulk, I mean, we didn't see anything from him, really. We didn't get to see him recruit. We didn't get to see the running backs take that next step because, I mean, he got a head coaching job. I would give that a moot point because it's like, okay, he got an opportunity, but we didn't see much from him. Andre Hart had never coached anywhere outside of with Coach Prime. Coach Pecco had never coached college football, and there's probably more on the list. And it's just like, you relied so heavily on guys who had been there, done that to bring this NFL culture. And I hate to break it to people, but having guys who just played in the NFL doesn't equate to, okay, this is now going to be an NFL team, right? Because I think at the NFL level, there's this sort of standard of like, this is your job. We shouldn't have to motivate you to come do your job. And I think at the college level, there is still some sort of innocence and youngness, or I don't know if youngness is the word, that these college athletes have, because they need to be pushed. They need to be motivated. They need to be told, hey, you're doing this right, or you're doing this wrong. Like, and I think the other problem that Colorado had, and I think specifically this relates to Ryan Staub, is they didn't have a quarterback coach, right? Brennan Marion serves as the offense coordinator, but he focuses on the quarterbacks. He is the quarterback coach for Colorado because it's his system. He knows what they should be seeing. He knows what looks they are getting. He knows everything about this offense. So who better to be a quarterback coach than the guy who invented the offense? He also brought along Malik Williams, who really good player for him at UNLV. He also understands what it's like to play in the offense. He understands what it's like to play for Brennan Marion, so he could pass along that tutelage. So I think a lot of people are going to perceive this as a shot. I don't think it's necessarily a shot as much as it is a glaring revelation as to how bad it is to have the wrong people around you in your program, right? Because if you don't have the people who are willing to go the extra mile, then your program is going to suffer, and then you're going to get quotes like this, right? I think a lot of the guys who have left Colorado, we've seen, this isn't the first quote like this, where it's like, yeah, I'm being coached more now, because they had coaches who had an NFL mindset or who were under the impression that they could run this as an NFL team where they could just be hands off and sort of just handle things here and there. That's not how it works. This is college football. None of these guys are pros. They may get paid like it, right? And I think they're like semi-professional at this point, but they're not professionals. They need to be coached up on footwork. They need to be coached up on technique. And so it's very telling that this comment has come out. It's very telling that people are reacting this way, but I think it's just a reason that Coach Prime made so many changes to his staff, because he's like, you know what? I need to embrace being a college football coach, not a college football coach that runs his program like an NFL team with NFL guys who think this is an NFL program, because two different things. It really is, right? There's a reason some of the best coaches in college football history did not work at the NFL level, right? Urban Meyer thought he could put his you-know-what on the table and just be like, I'm the best there ever was. Like, what did you do? I'm kicking kickers out here. Because in college, you have that sort of power over these guys. And in the NFL, it's like they are probably making more than you. They don't really want to hear from you unless they have to. Nick Saban didn't really work out at the NFL level. Matt Rule, obviously not one of the best coaches of all time, but really good college coach when he went to the NFL, didn't work out there, right? It's two different things. And I think we're going to see a more cohesive and on-track Colorado program this time around. But I do think that this quote is quite telling. When we come back, we're going to talk about the 4 players who I think have the opportunity to rise through the ranks the most this spring ball. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at 5 Hour Energy. If you guys didn't know, the 5 Hour Energy draft, it's coming up. It's right around the corner. And you need to know who you're going to pick, because I know who I'm picking. They have 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number 1 pick for the 5 Hour Energy draft. I, per usual, am going with a Confetti Craze. It's a delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. There's notes of vanilla frosting and sugary sprinkles, and I love it because it's not too sweet, but it's just sweet enough to where I get that craving. That craving is answered, and it gives me energy because there's a boost with 0 sugar, and the best part, they have a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. So find your new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're also doing this really cool thing called the Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonbuffs.supercast. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat where I'm hanging out daily. Click the link below in the show notes to go to lockedonbuffs.supercast to claim your free month. Again, really cool Discord access, episodes with no ads, and if you ask a question there and you want to be featured on the show, I will do just that. Let's talk about who can rise. Who can rise this spring ball? Because the Buffs, obviously, they have a big roster turnover, probably one of the biggest in college football. They brought in around 60-ish new players, if not more, when you count in freshmen. They brought in a lot of guys, right? And you're sort of looking at what the team was last year. It's like, okay, they were a talented roster that underperformed and did not have the right coaches, as indicated by Ryan Staub. So it's like, where do we go from here? Well, you need guys to step up at every position, but who can be those guys? Who can be a riser? And I think it's pretty straightforward. How I view as a riser is not someone who's going to be like, oh, they went from like third string to second string. I view this as someone who kind of is off the radar, but can also, I guess, make an impact immediately for the Buffs. And so there's a few guys that I'm looking at right now. And this is like people in the transfer portal class who I feel like were a little overlooked and can sort of rise into a starting role. And so I'm going to start off with, you got to start off with Cree Thomas. Cree Thomas, I think when you talk about, and he's the corner from Notre Dame, when you talk about Colorado's corners, I think there's a lot of excitement around Justin Eaglin, and I think he'll still be a starting corner. Paul Amodia has generated a lot of buzz from Lamar. And then you think about RJ Johnson. It's like, okay, they have 3 corners right there. So we'll see best man wins, like blah, blah, blah. Boo Carter's playing the nickel, and it's like, boom, set, chess, match, checkmate, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I think I just made up a bunch of words right there. But it's like, okay, hold on. There's this lengthy corner from Notre Dame who's getting chippy, who stands in at 6'1", went up against some of the better wide receivers in college football, was playing behind some of the best corners in college football last year. And all of a sudden, he's making some noise. And so I think he has a chance to go from like, oh, maybe that guy could be a future starter or rotational piece. Like, oh, that guy may be the starting corner outside of Justin Eaglin, right? I think if there was a corner spot that's at risk of being taken, it's RJ Johnson's. I think RJ Johnson, he had the highest PFF grade and all that, but I don't really know if he did enough to just lock in a starting spot. Like, I don't think he is at the level of where DJ McKinney started last year, right? When DJ McKinney came to the year, I had him ranked as a top 100 player in our Locked On top 100 players, and he made the list as well. He was a projected first-round pick. It was like he had everything going for him, and then just sort of fell off. And so I don't think RJ Johnson is that. But I do think there's a lot of people who have this mindset of like, RJ Johnson back, he's a starter. I think Cree Thomas can be a riser and take his spot. Let's go linebacker. Tyler Martinez. I'm staying on the defensive side of the ball. I learned a lot about him when I talked to Nate Mitchell when he was on the show. Tyler was the green dot guy from New Mexico. He had some injuries that derailed him, and it was just one of those things where I think when we think about the linebackers, it's like we instantly go to Lampron and we go to Leongo Lefau. And, I mean, those are the guys I think are going to start, so it's not like too shocking, but it's one of those things where it's like, that doesn't make me look over a guy like Tyler Martinez because he had a very, very productive career at New Mexico State. Injuries last year, so he only had 27 tackles and an interception. But the year before, 94 total tackles, a sack, like 6'2", 225, brings some good size. Leadership quality, which has been a big, big point of emphasis in the offseason for Colorado, is finding guys who can lead. I think he makes a lot of plays at linebacker this year, right? I think last year I talked about this a lot. Colorado had, I think it was 4 or 5 linebackers, and I trusted 2 of them. And unfortunately, the coaches did not trust those same 2 until the very end. So we were watching Reggie Hughes and Martavius French get absolutely exposed week in and week out because they sort of were not, I guess, the guys that they were the guys that the coaches wanted to roll with. Another guy who I think could be a riser. I've done my offensive line projections. I don't even think I included him as a starter, but I think he has starter potential. Is Bo Healy, 6'7", 300 pounds out of Georgia. Listen, he started a couple games for the Bulldogs. There's a thick competition across the offensive line. I think there's a good chance that Colorado starts maybe one person from last year, and that's either going to be Larry Johnson, or if you count Yaya Atia, it could also be him. But I think you're going to have, at a minimum, 4 new offensive linemen, right? I think the tackle spots are interesting because you have Leon Bell, who played right tackle for Cal, but that is essentially serving as their left tackle because JKS is left-handed. You have Taj White, who's played some tackle. You have a lot of talent. And so I think Bo Healy is the guy that I'm looking out for because I feel like we're kind of forgetting about him. Like, I think he was an exciting addition at one point, but it's like, okay, a couple games under his belt, like, who cares? Like, he'll probably be a backup. Maybe he's the guy that burst on the scene for these tackles, right? Maybe he's the guy that sort of stands out and just makes a name for himself. And then I'm going to go to the running back room, and I'm not going to go Richard Young. You guys know how high I am on Richard Young. but I'm actually going to go with Damien Henderson. I think Damien Henderson has some sort of an advantage in a way because he knows the system so well, but he just needs the opportunity. And I like the energy he's bringing to the table. He started his career at Colorado State, then transferred to Sac State. But when he was speaking to the media recently, he was like, yeah, I always wanted to be on this side of the mountain, or I always want to be on this side of the Rocky Mountain Showdown, whatever he said. And I just love that. And listen, I don't think Colorado has a single proven running back right now, right? Until I see someone break off some big runs in a game and consistently block and consistently make plays in passing attack, none of those guys are the guy in my eyes. But that doesn't mean that there isn't that guy yet. I think Damien Henderson, I think a lot of people are overlooking, myself included, for Richard Young, Michael Welch, DeKalen Taylor. I think he can make some noise. He's a guy who rushed for 500-plus yards, has speed, big play capabilities. And Colorado has speed with DeKalen Taylor, but he was injured last year. They just didn't have a lot of big play capability at running back, and I think that's going to change this year. And it wouldn't shock me if Damien Henderson, who was a star at Sac State, he was their second leading running back. It doesn't shock me if he's sort of that guy that emerges. So those are the four guys that I think are going to sneak up on us and I guess have the chance to be the biggest risers this offseason, because we already know the guys who we think will start, but who are the guys that will take advantage of their opportunities this spring? So you guys comment below. If you disagree or if you have another name to look out for, let me know, and we could compare and contrast in the comment section. Or if you want to discuss it more, do it in the Discord. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk, when we come back, I'm going to talk about the three people under the most pressure, regardless of coach, position, whatever. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old ways of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, that's bucket list stuff. The hard part is always actually getting the tickets. There's long queues, prices jumping around, and surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included at the price you see. What you see is what you pay. The seat view feature is a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your exact seat before you buy. Zone deals let you pick the section and save even more while Game Time selects the seats. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. Take the guesswork of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. This episode of Locked on Buffs, we're brought to you by the Locked on Podcast Network. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's talk under pressure. I have three names who stand out the most to me right now, where it's like, okay, prove it. Prove it to me. And just because they're under pressure doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean I'm doubting them. It's just these are the guys who Colorado needs to succeed the most. And I think for starters, Julian Lewis is under pressure, right? You're a former five-star. You really weren't ready to play at all last year until maybe the very end. And it's not a knock on him. He was a high school senior age person playing for a college football team who, mind you, had a lot of guys quit, whether or not they were still playing. They were still playing, but they quit on the team in a way. And you just weren't ready. And I think there's a lot of people that were really hoping he would be ready so they could just plug and play and just like think of and I don't even want to make this comparison, so I'm trying to think of someone else. Like Dylan Raiola, I guess, where he just played right away and worked through the growing pains. He wasn't ready to do that, and that's okay. But now you got Isaac Wilson chasing after your job, and Isaac Wilson, if you ignore his stats, has some there's some positives to his game, right? He's mobile, he's confident, he has a decent arm, and he's decisive when he's confident, right? And I think at Utah he was thrown into the fire way too soon. But Isaac Wilson is a third-year quarterback looking to prove, like, hey, I could be a starter still. I'm a starter at the Power 4 level. Like, don't overlook me. So Julian Lewis is not only under pressure to lead Colorado to success, they have a 4.5 win total, so they're projected to be the worst team in the Big 12. But he also has the pressure of, like, I need to fend off this guy who's coming for my job. Next, I think Coach Marv has a lot of pressure as the defensive coordinator, because Colorado's defense was, I'm not going to say their offense was perfect by any means. I actually think the offense cost the defense the offense put the defense in more, I guess, exposing positions than people realize, right? The defense was constantly set up for failure because the offense was frequently doing nothing, but still one of the worst run defenses in the country. Chris Marv comes in, and Coach Prime always said it was with the intention or the possibility of him being a defense coordinator, so we'll see if he's right. He was fired from his last defensive coordinator role. Prove it to us that you deserve or can be that guy. And I don't want to say deserve, because, I mean, obviously he's qualified, but prove to us that there's a reason Coach Prime didn't go, you know what, I'd rather just have you coach linebackers. I'm going to bring in insert name here to be our defense coordinator, so that way we have someone else, right? Prove to us that you can improve this defense, because I think a lot of the reasons that people think this team's going to be bad is because they look at this defense and they go, it's a bunch of G5 and FCS guys. Who cares? Like, they're not going to be very good. And then lastly, the person under the most pressure, I would say, is Brennan Marion. Whether people want to admit it or not, Brennan Marion, and I love the Brennan Marion hire, favorite hire of the offseason, regardless of head coach, coordinator, staffer, whatever. Does your system work to the point where it can totally flip a team around? Can it save a program? Because that's essentially what we're asking him to do is, can you save this Colorado offense? Can you save this program, right? Because Colorado goes sub 500 again. And I'll talk about it later on our bonus episode, which we'll be releasing pretty much every day moving forward, as 2 episodes a day. I talked about on today's episode with Spencer from Locked on College Football, like, if Colorado's sub 500, we're seeing coaching changes again. And I don't really know if we're talking about coaching changes with Coach Prime being like, okay, I need to make a defense coordinator change, right? We're getting to that point now where it's like, strap up or get out. And so I think Brennan Marion is sort of tasked with being the glue or the thing that fixes everything. And I'm really high on his offense. I hope that he gets free reign to do whatever he wants, because his offense has proven to have success at multiple stops. So those are the 3 that I think are under the most pressure. I think Deion Sanders is obviously under pressure, and he's an honorable mention. He's always under pressure, right? So he's not under the most pressure in my eyes, because I don't think the pressure's ever left him. Simple as that. So you guys comment below, who do you think is under the most pressure for the Colorado Buffaloes? I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I'll see all of y'all tomorrow.